we have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. The greatest art is the art of living, not the paintings, the sculptures, the poems, the marvellous literature. That all has its place, but to find out the art of living is the greatest art. Hello and welcome to episode 292 of Urgency of Change. The Krishnamurti podcast features carefully selected extracts from Krishnamurti's recorded talks. Each episode highlights his different approaches to universal and timeless themes that affect our everyday lives, the state of the world, and the future of humanity. This episode's theme is art. Upcoming themes are competition, the past, and challenge. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust, based at Brockwood Park in Hampshire, UK. Brockwood is also home to Brockwood Park School, a unique international boarding school offering a personalised, holistic education inspired by Krishnamurti's teachings. Please visit brockwood.org.uk for more information. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This episode on art has 4 sections. This first extract is from the second question and answer meeting in Saanen 1984 and is titled, "Is Art the Product of Thought?"
Your statement that art is merely the product of thought and therefore not creation has troubled many artists, poets, musicians, including us who are here, and who think that they are creators. Cannot creation include the activity of thought? Right? Question clear. The speaker has said that thought, with all the nature of thought, can never be creative. So, and thought, which is the expression also of an artist, poet, musicians, and all of us included, thought is always limited. Right? So first, we must inquire into what is thought, why it is limited, whether it's expressed by the greatest poet in the world, or the greatest artist, or the artist who is just beginning. I hope the artist is always beginning, not achieving. I think it was Goya or Velasquez, I've forgotten who, one of those, said, "I'm always learning." Goya? Bene. He was 92 when he said that. I'm still learning. So, we have to inquire into several things. First of all, what is creation? Creation. How the world has come into being. That's part of creation. And we ought also inquire into thought and the art of living, which is far the greatest art, the supreme art, and the art of painting, the art of music, the art of speech. And why do we give such extraordinary importance to artists? The other day, a picture was sold for $10 million. It's probably a very good investment. So we have to inquire into all this, not just condemn or say, why do you say that? So first let's inquire, what is the art of living? Why do you say that is the greatest art, greater than any other art in the world? From the marvellous carpenter who puts a cabinet together, and the great artists, Leonardo da Vinci and so on, great classical artists, and the great poets. And those of us who are not so-called artists, but we may have the sensitivity to look at the mountains, sensitivity to someone's suffering, sensitivity to nature, to look at a tree. There's a marvelous tree on the road, single, whole, one great trunk with many, many branches, full of foliage, fluttering in the wind. When you look at that beauty, or the beauty of a cloud with sunlight on it, so we have to also inquire then, what is beauty? Right? So this question implies great many things, not just one thing. What is beauty? Apart from the physical form, clean-cut face, healthy, full of sparkling eyes and smile and sense of dignity. There's the beauty of a mountain, of a tree, or the running waters. When does one see such great beauty? You may go all the museums of the world, and the speaker has visited many, many, many museums. And everybody says, what a marvelous picture that is. How beautifully proportionate, the colors, the shape, the grouping, and all the rest of it. So we use the word beauty in so many ways. Beauty salon, and so on. What is, if you really inquire into it, what is beauty? Does beauty lie in the eye, in the heart, or in the mind? Or there is beauty when the self, the ego, is not. You understand? The ego, with all its problems, with all its travail, with all its confusion, uncertainty, misery, happiness, that is the self. And when that self says how beautiful it is, it has very little meaning. There was perhaps you have heard of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. The most extraordinary canyon it is, miles of it, a river cutting through it. It's really the most extraordinary sight. And somebody has said in the book, in the hotel book, I've seen this glorious sight and I'm glad I'm going to have tea. So, is it possible to look at something, the tree, mountain, the valley, your wife or your husband, or something, without the self, without you coming between that and your perception? You understand? Is it possible to appreciate that sense of great beauty? And that beauty cannot possibly exist when the self is there. You may be a great artist, the modern sense of that word too, and be tremendously egocentric, tremendously ambitious, grabbing money, right? And paint the extraordinary picture. And we call that a great artist. So we have to ask, what is the art of living? Which is the greatest art on earth, because we have never, the great poets, the great sculptors, Michelangelo, all the rest of them, have they understood? I'm not belittling them or being disrespectful to them, or to you who are here as artists, poets and musicians. Can one discover first the art of living, and then everything you do is art? And what is the art of living? I believe the word art means giving the right proportions to life, placing all the things in life in their order. Not exaggerating any one thing. And to find out the art of living requires tremendous, not only intellectual capacity, but also great sensitivity. The art of living can only come when there is total freedom. Freedom from all our petty little worries, all our intentions, all our problems, fears, and when there is this extraordinary sense of wholeness. That is when you are nothing. Nothingness is wholeness. I wonder if you understand all this. Because we are always wanting to be something. If you are a clerk, you want to become the manager. If you are a scientist, you want to explore more and more and more, and fame, publicity, all the rest of it. Research. Research into biology, not research into your own mind, your own being. That doesn't count in the world. That's no importance. But we, as scientists exploring into the atom, given tremendous importance. Right? So can we find out for ourselves the art of living? To go into that, we must find out the nature of thought. Thought is born of knowledge, right? As memory. Thought is memory, knowledge, experience. If there is no experience, no knowledge, no memory, there is no thinking. You may have a feeling, but there is no active thinking. And our thinking in any direction, horizontal or vertical, linear or whole, is still limited, because knowledge is always limited, whether now or in the future. Is that clear? That is so. It's not what the speaker is saying, asserting. It is a fact. Because all our experience are limited. When it is limited, there is a demand for the more. More knowledge. And we see that knowledge, though some of the biologists and scientists say through knowledge, man ascends. You must have heard. Man ascends through knowledge. Probably physically. You understand? You are building greater houses, better heating, better roads, better communication, better ways of killing man, and so on, so on, so on. So thought being limited, has created this world, this society in which we live. Obviously. Thought has created all the rituals and all the religious organizations. Thought has created the gods out of fear, out of the desire for comfort, security. Thought is a material process. Because, you understand, it's contained in the brain. The brain, the speaker is not an expert on brain, but he's watched how one's own brain works. Its reactions, its rhythm, and so on. I won't go into all that. So, thought, whatever it does, is limited. And being limited, it can invent. Invent new ways of building a cycle. Better ways, invent new combustion, internal combustion machinery and so on. The, jet and so on. It can invent everything. But invention is not creation. Right? One may write a beautiful poem and feel that's my creation. But it's still within the area of thought. Right? Bound to be. If one writes a poem, however magnificent, however beautiful, however depth and the rhythm of the words and all that, it is still, the feeling may be different, but the expression of it is still within the field of thought. And so whatever thought does is limited. And inventions are limited. One invents something and somebody comes along and invents that's the same thing much better. And so on, so on, so on. So what is creation? This has been a question that has been asked by the ancient Hindus, the later Greeks, and we say God has created all this. That's a very convenient way out of things. But with one asks for oneself, putting all these assertions aside, what is creation? Can it be born out of knowledge? And therefore creation is limited? Or creation is something beyond all knowledge, which has nothing whatsoever to do with knowledge. You understand? If we go into this very seriously, to find out, not I find out, you tell you, but find out for oneself. As it has nothing whatsoever to do with thought, with memory, with knowledge, with experience. So we'll put all that, use one word to convey all that, knowledge. As we said, knowledge is always limited, now or in the future. And creation must be something limitless. Not, I create a poem. That's a very misuse of that word, if one may point out. We are not belittling the artist or the painter or the etc. But when we are inquiring very, very deeply into this question, to find out that which is not created by thought, the immensity of the universe. One can look at the universe through a telescope, see the various gases and so on. But the enormity of creation, the thing that is not measurable by words. We measure everything by words. To be free of knowledge, you understand? And yet have knowledge in its place. To find that out. Whether the brain can ever be free from knowledge and the word, but yet keep knowledge at its place, you understand? Driving, talking, writing a letter, various forms of skills and disciplines. Their knowledge is absolutely necessary. Otherwise you and I, the speaker, wouldn't be sitting here. But this sense of immensity, the sense of that creation which is not measurable by thought. And therefore, creation is something that has no relationship with knowledge.
The second extract is from Krishnamurti's 8th talk in Ojai 1949 and is titled Art and Sensitivity.
Is the artist, the musician, engaged in a futile thing? I'm not speaking of one who takes up art or music, but of the born artist, whose inherent nature is that, as is the true scientist or the man of religion. Sometimes you speak slightingly of the arts, as others speak of music or painting to illustrate what you are saying. Would you go into this? It's a very complicated problem, so let's go into it slowly, like all other problems. As the questioner says, there are two types of people: those who are inherently artists and those who take up art or music. Those who take up, obviously, either do it for sensations, for upliftment, for various forms of escapes, merely take it up as an amusement. As an addiction. You might take that up as well as take up drink, or any other ism or religious dogmas and so on. Perhaps less harmful, because you are by yourself. Then there is the other type, which is the artist, if there is such a person. Inherently, for itself, he paints music and all the rest of it, as the Saanen. Now what happens to that person? You must know such people. What is happening to him as an individual? As a social entity also. There is no such thing as isolation. He is a social entity. What is happening to such a person? The danger, is there not, for all those people who have capacity, gift, is that they think they are superior, first of all. They think they are the salt of the earth. They are people specially chosen and apart. And with that feeling of apartness, of special chosen, all the evils come. They are antisocial, individualistic, aggressive, extraordinarily self-centered, like all gifted people. So gift and capacity is a danger, is it not? Not that one can avoid the gift or the capacity, but one must be aware of the implications, the dangers of it. And besides, they may come together in the laboratory or gather up musicians and artists, but they have always this barrier between others, have they not? You are the layman and I am the specialist. The man who knows more, the man who knows less. And all the identification that goes with it. I am not speaking slightingly of anybody, because that would be too stupid. But one must be aware of all these things. To point them out is not to abuse somebody or deride somebody. Few of us are inherently artists, first of all. We like to play with it. Because it's profitable. Or gives a certain eclat, a certain show, certain verbal expressions which we have learned. It gives us a place, a position. And if we are artists, really, genuinely, is that surely the quality of sensitivity, not of isolation. Art doesn't belong to any particular country or to any particular person. But the artist soon makes his gift into the personal. He painted it. It's his work, his poem. It puffs him up like the rest of us. Therefore he becomes antisocial. He is more important. And as most of us are not in that position, fortunately or unfortunately, most of us use music or art as merely sensation. We may have a quick experience when we hear something lovely, but the repetition of that thing over and over and over again soon dulls us. It's merely the sensation we indulge in. And if we do not indulge in that, then beauty has quite a different significance. Then we approach it anew every time. And it is this approach anew every time to something, whether ugly or beautiful, that is important, which is being sensitive. And you cannot be sensitive if you are captured by your own addiction or capacity, by your own delights, by your own sensations. Surely that is the really creative person that comes to things anew, not merely repeats what the radio announcer has told you, or critic. So the difficulty in this is to keep that sensitivity all the time alert, whether you're an artist or merely playing with art. And that sensitivity is dull when you give importance to yourself as the artist. You may have vision, and you may have capacity to put that vision into paint, into the marble, or into words. But the moment you identify yourself with it, you're lost. It is finished. You lose that sensitivity. And the world loves to praise you. What a marvelous artist you are. And you like that. And then you're lost. And for most of us who are not great artists inherently, our difficulty is not to get lost in sensation. Because sensations dull. Through sensations you cannot experience. Experiencing comes only when there is direct relationship to it. And there is no direct relationship when there is the screen of sensation, of desire to be, or to want it, or to want it to continue. So our problem is to keep alert and sensitive. And that is denied when you are merely seeking sensation and the repetition of sensation.
The third extract is from the first question and answer meeting in Ojai, 1983, and is titled, "What is the role of the artist?"
What is the role of the artist in life, and what is the significance of music, poetry, and all art in our relationship to each other and the world? First of all, we must be clear what we mean by art. The word art, from Greek and so on, Latin, is to join, to adjust, to put things together. That's the root meaning of that word. It also in Sanskrit, it means measure, manner, use. The root meaning, we are talking of the etymological meaning. And the question asks, what is the role of art in our lives? Having seen what the root meaning of that word is, the root meaning, what is beauty? Beauty is not something put together. So, we're going to inquire together into the meaning of that word, the significance of that word, the content of that word. I'm not a professor. I'm sorry to sit on a platform, which I don't like, but one has to do it for the convenience of others. Otherwise you won't see me if I sat on the ground. I would like to sit on the ground, but I have to sit here. It's a very complex question, this. If you can go very deeply into it, it has great significance. Art implies, doesn't it, a flowing, melodious manner of space, weight, space, grouping together, and depth. Are there some artists here? I said, the speaker said, a flowing, melodious manner of space, depth, and grouping together of words, sentences, or a painting on a canvas, or a sculpture, or a poem, or literature. Is that right? A melodious, a flowing, melodious manner of space, of depth, of grouping certain things together, trees, people, words, all that is a form of beauty, is a form of art. Do you agree to this at all? That is, if there is no space, if you see something, say a painting, I hope somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. If you see a picture, a painting by the masters, classical masters, or recent ones, really great painters, there's space, a sense of space. The figures are grouped together in a certain way. There is a certain depth to it in color, in sense of movement, and it must be melodious. And that gives, when you see some of these paintings of landscape, this vast, they may paint a little cottage in a field with few trees, but there's space. And there's depth of color, proportion, a sense of harmony, right? And that would be great painting. And one has visited, perhaps as you as a tourist, most of the major museums of the world, and one sees all these great masters from Holland, Italy, England, America, and so on. So we are asking, what is beauty? Is beauty according to a principle, according to certain rules? You follow? Or beauty is something entirely different, though there must be proportion and all the rest of it. When we look at a mountain, there, when you see those mountains, those hills, range after range, blue in the evening, and early morning when the sun touches it, before everything else, when you see that, the reaction is either great silence, you keep quiet. There's space, enormous space between you and that, and beyond. And when you see such marvelous, beautiful mountains, snow-clad, against this blue sky, for an instant you become silent. The very beauty, the very grandeur, the majesty of a mountain makes you absolutely quiet. You can say the shock of a beauty. I hope you're looking at those mountains, not at me. The speaker is not important at all. But what he says may be important and may not be important. But you have to discover for yourself. So when you see something extraordinarily grand, of great height and depth, and then the shock of that beauty drives away for the moment all your problems. There is no self wandering, worrying, talking to itself. There is no entity, the self, the me, looking. At that moment when the self is not, there is great beauty. Right? Wonderful to follow this. And the questioner asks, what is the role of art in our lives? I don't know. But we're going to find out together. Why should anything play a role? Please, this is an important question. Why should anything play a role in our lives? The greatest art is the art of living. the greatest, not the paintings, the sculpture, the poems, and the marvellous literature that has its certain place, but to find out for oneself the art of living, that's the greatest art, surpasses any role in life. So, some of the great painters in their lives are neurotic. Very, very disturbed lives, like Beethoven and others. Very disturbed. And that disturbance perhaps may help them to write great music. Or if one led a life of aesthetic life, am I going, are we following each other? Aesthetic life. And that life is based on relationship. There is no life without relationship. And aesthetic is the capacity of perception. Right? Are we meeting each other, or am I just talking to myself? Capacity to perceive, which means one must be extraordinarily sensitive. And sensitivity is not shouting, yelling, but sensitivity comes from depth of silence. Should I go on? It's no good going to colleges and universities to learn how to be sensitive. Or go to somebody to teach you how to be sensitive. As we said, aestheticism is the capacity to perceive. And you cannot perceive if there is not a certain depth of silence. If you look at these trees in silence, there is a communication which is not merely verbal, but a communication, a communion with nature. And most of us have lost our relationship with nature. With the trees, with the mountains, with all the living things of the earth. And sensitivity in our relationship, to be aware of each other, is that at all possible? That's the art of living, to find out a relationship that is not conflict. That's a flow of melodious manner of living together. You understand all this? Without all the rows, quarrels, possessiveness and being possessed, fear of loneliness, you follow the whole cycle of human struggle. The art of living is far more important than the art of great painters. It may be that we are escaping through music from ourselves, through going to all the museums of the world and talking about them endlessly, reading about books on art. All that may be an escape from our own troubles, anxieties, depressions. So can we live an aesthetic life of deep perception? Be aware of our words. Be aware of the noise of this country, the vulgarity of human beings. Because one learns far more in silence than in noise. These all maybe sound platitudes, but they are not. This requires a great deal of observation of oneself. That observation is prevented by any form of authority, looking to another to teach us how to observe. Just to observe, watch, the way you walk, the way you talk, the noise, all that goes on. Then out of that comes the art of living. Art, as we said, is putting things together harmoniously. To observe the contradictions in oneself, one's desires that are always so strong, to observe all that, not create an opposite of it, just to observe the fact and live with the fact. That seems that's the way to bring about a life of melodious harmony.
The final extract in this episode is from the first question and answer meeting at Brockwood Park in 1984 and is titled The Art of Living.
We have the art of poetry, painting, the art of art of cooking, especially now, and so on. But we've never asked ourselves, perhaps which is the greatest art, what is the art of living? Is there an art? Or is it all the chance? Or is it all some genes, a biological chances and so on? What is the true art of living? Are you waiting for me to answer it? If one answers it, don't make a problem of it. Then the art is thrown out of the window. So let's look at it together to find out what is the art of living. art in the widest and the depth of that word, not just all the contents of a museum. If you were asked that question, what's the art of living? What would be your answer? Not calculated answer, personal answer, or emotional romantic answer, which are meaningless. Right? If I answered that question emotionally, it is the most, art of living is the highest aspiration, which is sheer nonsense. Art of living is the most exalted intellectual activity, right? That's only very partial. Or art of living is to have a holistic outlook on life. Sounds excellent. But factually it isn't. So what is the art of living? Obviously, no conflict whatsoever. Right? A brain that is in conflict all the time, having problems all the time. This tremendous self-concern. Such a brain must inevitably be limited, right? If one is thinking about oneself, how to meditate, whether you can, all the rest of it. Your very meditation is self-centeredness. So, the art of living, it appears, you can add to it more, to live without conflict. Is that possible at all? That is to understand the opposing elements in one's life, right? Desiring one thing, opposed to that desire another thing. You know, this corridor of dualities. And this self-centeredness. As long as that self-centeredness exists, there must be conflict. Because self-centeredness is limited, small, petty. But you listen to all this, but carry on. Right? And you say that's not possible in modern society to live without self-centeredness, at least a little bit of it. Have you ever tried, have you ever lived without self-centeredness for one day? Not to think about oneself. Just even for an hour. And see what happens. You haven't committed to anything. You can go back to your self-centeredness. Nobody's going to say how wrong it is or right it is. That's the normal state of human beings, apparently. So if one really tries for an hour, actually do it, not try it, do it and see what happens. And if you do it 1 hour, You can extend it. And you don't, it gives you tremendous energy. It gives you great sense of passion. Not lust and all the business, but the passion to pursue something profoundly to the very end of things.